Got my Laura Ingalls going. And we're being smoked out.
It's going to give us a sexy, like,
smoky vibe. This is our bar room. Welcome, guys. Hold on, I got to yell at the dog. Quiet! Enough!
I'm deaf.
I pre-warned you I was yelling at the dog. Welcome, guys. We are at our garden chat, but today instead of being in the garden, we are in our newly finished duck pen. So you're going to hear the ducks. They are swimming in the swimming pool. So Heather, roll your beautiful duck footage here. Probably the only editing that will be done to this video. So we've had a few topics that we've been tossing around this morning. And so I think the topic that we've decided to discuss is
Community.
Creating your community.
How important it is to build a community.
Yeah. You know, because this kind of doubles onto this morning's video, which actually this is Saturday. So our last week's video, which was homesteading being hard and people quitting. And I actually believe that probably the number one reason why people quit is lack of community.
Absolutely. You know, because this you couldn't do really alone. And I mean, that's one of the reasons you took me on. Like,
yeah. You know, so, but it's not only that, because we're such social creatures. Social creatures. But if you think about it, so back in the day when the majority of people had homesteads, right? They had huge families. So they had 10 or 12 kids, which means they had their own small community in their household. So, and then you think about those kids grow up, their friends come over, they then get married, and then usually, are you ready? I'm going to yell. Of course he's going to stop. Usually, the wives would move to the father's homestead, and they would get a piece of land, and a piece of the land. He's gonna tick me off. Hasn't been barking all morning, and now he decides to bark nonstop. So then you have the original mom and dad, and then you have all their sons and their wives. So you've now doubled to, let's just say you had all sons. You now have 24 people, 25, 26 people. So you have a community, you have people to help with.
And as they're growing up, they have friends together. So they are in themselves friends.
Right.
And so they keep that close-knitness going on. So.
Yeah. So you have 10 people to help you garden. You have 10 people to help you do fencing. You have 10, you know, like, it's very easy to divide and conquer with, you know, 4 or 5 people to go do one thing, and you can get that done in the day, you know. Or I always remember, so when I was visiting my grandpa's house, I was 10 years old, and there was this family that had 16 kids. I was obsessed with it because we were a family of 2 kids. And we would go there and cut firewood down for my grandpa, and then he also did concrete work for them. So we were there all summer long. And I remember I was like, I didn't know anything, but I did know the cows were not supposed to be in the corn. And I yelled out, I went running to the house and I yelled out, cows in the corn. People came from everywhere. It was like SWAT teams, whoosh, in, and they had those cows out of the corn like real fast. And that was probably my first time being on the farm. And they had, you know, a bunch, but it was like Jeeps and trucks with people in the back. I mean, they came from everywhere.
Well, and you learn with something like that how to work as a team, and therefore when you move out and you get your own farm, you know how important this community is, whether you have a family or it's you pull people in from neighbors or church or what have you.
Well, and how to communicate. So now we've lost the art of communication.
We absolutely have.
We've lost the art of working together. Farms are much smaller because in general, so let's just say my grandparents had 4 kids. So that was considered small,
right?
A small family in that. And then each one of those kids had 2 kids or 3. So and then I had 1. So each generation gets like smaller and smaller. Now my son has 2, and I think they're going to stop there. I mean, they talked about adoption because my daughter-in-law is Navajo, so they can adopt Navajo babies.
Back in the day, women would go down and would go wash together. They didn't have washing machines, or they lived the frontier life. They lived off grid, and so they would go and wash together, and they had that community, and they had those friendships and those bonds. And as time's gone by and people get washing machines, the ladies then stop doing that, and then they get depressed. They feel lonely. They, all of these things.
Well, could you imagine? Okay, so meeting at the river, which or meeting at the wash place. The conversations that are then had, that was probably like the telephone call line, what's going on in each other's family. If someone's struggling, if someone's sick, it's like the Amish still do it. So, they have these big families in these big communities, and therefore they can farm these big farms and not have to participate in basic government stuff and grocery stores and all of that.
Well, and if you think about it, you got pig farmer over here, you got cow farmer over here, you got vegetable farmer over here, and you guys can then share. You can be like, okay, I got this, let's barter, let's trade,
right?
And that is so important with community too. And that's one of the things I see as a city girl coming into this lifestyle. I'm seeing that there's so much of that going on. People do trade.
Yeah.
People do barter. People do help each other out. It's amazing how the communities come together. And, for example, somebody's doing a barn raising, let's say, and everybody goes over and helps, and it's amazing.
Spend the day. Yeah. Social. You get together. There's usually a meal.
Yeah.
There's everybody bringing stuff over. Yeah. I mean, that's like a big thing. So I guess the big thing is, so since that's how we should be living, but in general, people are not. Right? So now you have depression, you have anxiety, you have, and you're sitting inside and you're cooped up in a small apartment or a small yard, house, whatever, and you're isolated, which is not how we were designed.
Well, I think
we're pack animals.
I think people that were born into this lifestyle, they get it, they know it. But people that want to homestead and are starting out because of everything that's going on in the world right now, they don't know how to do that, and they then get out here and get frustrated because they feel overwhelmed and they feel lonely and they feel.
Could you imagine you having come from the city, moving out onto not even this big, but I think we're probably using here about 3 acres,
right?
And doing that on your own?
No, absolutely not. Could not.
Yeah,
I would have been so depressed. I would have been like, I don't know anybody. But I also would self-isolate. I didn't realize how important it is to have that circle of friends or like-minded people. And
well, because okay, so bringing that up,
service too. We
yes.
do a lot of
so
service.
Bringing that up, the one thing that I've noticed that I think is so sad is and I've been noticing this on social media as far as someone asking a question, and it's a simple question to people who have been doing this for a long time. It's a day stopper for someone that has not done this for a long time. And then they are attacked and like, oh well, if you're gonna have that problem, you shouldn't have it. The one that I noticed the most, this lady was so excited because she got into meat rabbits. And so she showed a picture of her 4 meat rabbits that she picked up. Woo!
That means splashing.
Good times. And so I'm like, off to the comments, you know, because I always love to see what people are saying. So then I go in there and I'm reading the comments, and there is probably, let's just say 30 comments. There's 20 of them are like, oh, this is so cool. You're going to love it. No big deal. Watch, there's lots of videos on processing, blah, 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 blah. You're going to fill your freezer. Like, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
But then there's the people that want to leave the books about, I could never kill a bunny, and you know, I would just become a vegetarian if that was the only meat. And you're gonna have protein starvation. That's another one that just cracks me up.
The only thing I can think is, I wonder if these are new people to homesteading life, because I can think back as when I, obviously before here, you knew how sensitive I was to like processing animals at all.
Yeah.
And now I'm totally fine with it, but the old me would have had a hard time. I, though, know enough not to just dash other people's
But
coats.
that's the other thing. That's where I was going with that. It's like, what happened if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Now, you could say, if you've done it, with my experience, I found that
XYZ.
it didn't work for me, or it was too emotionally hard for me, or I tried them once and then, you know, got out of them, and I'm thinking about going back. You know,
and that's sharing your experience,
sharing,
so that people can get that part of it.
Sharing your experience, strength, and hope.
Yeah.
And if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. But I think every single person that gets, the other one was, you don't eat your pets. Exclamation mark. Sad face, angry face. Cry.
That's why it says meat rabbits.
And I think that just because we give critters a good life doesn't make them our pets.
Now, social media can be a bad thing for depression and all these things, because you're like, oh, I want that. I want what they have.
Yeah.
We don't see the hardships a lot of the time on social media. But it has its boons. It has its great parts. And like the community, so the homesteading groups that we have, the ladies homesteading groups, or...
Oh, honey, you dove out. She's like, wow, man.
I broke my foot. But they have like the homesteading groups that you can learn so much.
Yeah.
And I can speak from my experience as a city person learning this, coming into this life. I've learned so much from those groups and those ladies and gentlemen that share on those.
Yeah.
So they can be helpful, and that can help you build your community as
That's
well.
where I was so surprised with the comment that I saw was on a women's homesteading group. And I just shook my head, because I'm like, if you're not homesteading and you're on that group and you're there just to spread hate, get off of it.
Yeah.
Like, don't.
We need to be lifting each other up and helping and encouraging.
Yeah, that is, and of course you see that all over. So there is, obviously, as a homesteader, you end up with a thicker skin. Like, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Kimmy fed baby mice to the ducks the other day, which is like a big deal.
It was a huge deal. I was like, I'm officially a country girl. That is,
you know, but that's the circle of life. And then, you know, you're taking care of one of the animals by getting rid of what is legitimately a nuisance.
Yep. Building community is so important. Like, we have learned with YouTubing, we've met people all over the country and have become friends with them. Yeah. But they share the same interests, the same goals. They give ideas, and once again, that's another part of community. And
I do have a couple of people that are like, I don't watch when you show the rabbits, or I don't watch when you show, because I know you're going to process them. But that's all they say. Like, they don't attack me, they don't get ugly, they don't get whatever. But, you know, what we're doing here is what I consider the bare minimum as far as the homesteading side of life, because we're building the actual homestead. So we've got the barn going in, and then after the barn will be bigger housing, you know, bigger.
And if you haven't seen those builds, go over to 'Cause We Can Farms.
Yeah.
We are doing builds on both the barn and a shipping container tiny home currently.
And then this is our waiting, as Jess says, our waiting room, our learning space. And
Yep.
so you're delving into foraging.
Yep.
And then I'm
bees.
reaping those benefits because I'm foraging. And then this is okay. My very, very first garden, apparently it was an anomaly. I did really well. That was in Texas. That was a super long growing season, and here is very, very different. You pick different plants.
Very short.
Yeah, very short.
Like our cold season is what, 7 months?
Yes. So, you don't really get a spring, summer, fall garden. You can get a spring, maybe a summer, but you're going to be eating. So right now we're planting our fall garden.
Right now it is almost August. It's the end of July, and we do not have one red ripe tomato.
No, we have one that's blushing, that's starting to turn. We do have peppers. They're the hot pepper, the peach ones that Colleen gave us. They're about this big right now, so they should double in size before they're picked. So we're not even picking those. We do have lettuce. We do have chives. We had the strawberries are taking off. So, I mean, we have some stuff that we've been able to pick, but not a huge amount. And I've said on a regular, we plant for a fall garden because that's basically the growing season. Now, how we're going to extend that is to add the greenhouse. Now, and the reason why I bring that up is because that comes back around to the community thing. We want to do a CSA. We want to be able to share food in our church. I am more active in church now than I've absolutely ever been.
Same.
And the thing is when I moved up here to North Idaho, my son had just gotten out of the Navy, but I had no family, no real friends here. I have some people that are related to an ex-boyfriend of mine that I, am more than acquaintances with. And like I would drive to help them fix a tire. That's always my thing. Would I stop, pull over, and help them with the tire? But in general, I moved up here without knowing anybody. And so the very first thing that I sold some sheep. I met another YouTuber who then introduced me to the YouTuber group. And then from there, I started going to a local church. And so those were the communities that I started building and started participating in. But the average person's not going to YouTube.
No, but there is church, there is social media. You can find people locally. Like here we have there's a Sandpoint homesteading group, and we are close to Sandpoint, so that's a great group for us to join, because then you can find some people and buy animals from them or trade eggs or those kinds of things. So, want to get milk because we can't have cows on the property? You can meet people that do that.
Exactly. And so I was looking for quail eggs, ended up meeting this really cool lady who has a dairy, and her and her husband the last 8 years have been doing exactly what we're doing here. So now we have a friend in her and her husband, and we get to reap the benefits from their knowledge, plus buy some raw cow's milk.
And it was really cool because we got to go to their house, and they built on a mountain here.
Just
so,
like this.
So you can kind of then envision what you want to see on the property, or what's really cool about living on a mountain.
And she was like, don't do this. Don't put rocks as retaining things to stop. She's like, it's terrible. The grass is terrible around it. And, so being able to, say, don't do that. That didn't work well for me around here and that kind of stuff. So that was really, really cool. And the ducks are just having the best.
And also, just little things like if you want to, find a piece of furniture or something, and you get on the local marketplace, and you can build that community by meeting people and being like, oh, what are you doing? This is what we're doing. But don't self-isolate. Often I think people self-isolate and they don't realize how terribly bad that is for them, for their mental well-being.
And the other thing that I know is really hard for me is accepting help. Because when people see you doing, they want to come be a part of it, especially if you're a positive minded person, and we actively work on staying in good moods. because it's very easy to be nothing is. What'd you say when you got home from the water? You were like, everything is going wrong.
Everything that could go wrong for me today has gone wrong, but I'm still in a good mood.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just a thing. You just adapt and overcome, and you move on.
And then you start on your next thing, and it's like, and then you do it in a good mood.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a thing that is taught to big families, because one negative Nelly could bring everybody down, and then the work is terrible.
Yes.
It's like horrible to do. Where, and honestly, so I had a stepfather that was very angry, and so I prefer working by myself because I don't want to work around that. And you know, I'll get mad at something. I'll get frustrated at something, and I'll do that for a bit, and then I'll start laughing at myself, and I actively work my way out of it, because I'm like, I don't want to be that person.
And nobody wants to be around people like that.
Exactly. So accepting help is really hard for me, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to be trapped if someone is acting like that. But when you accept help, one, it makes the job easier. Two, again, you're working on your communication skills. You're working on those things. Hopefully working past some childhood trauma if you've had it, and actively saying that's what I'm doing, because that's what I've had to do. But then you have this community. You have people that you can call and say, hey, I'm doing this. I need help with it.
I think the other thing is you've got to remember that if you're turning down people's help, you're kind of being selfish, because you're taking away the blessing that they are able to give to you, that they want to give to you. You know, so often people want to help other people monetarily, and
which
then
is
others,
lovely.
Which is lovely, and then others are like, but I can't help monetarily, and so their way of helping is all of these other things.
Is time. And honestly, time is very precious. You cannot get that back at all. You know, but you have to say yes. You have to say, yes, I'm doing this project, and I definitely could use some help. And, you know, Kim has said this multiple times, yeah, but I don't know how much help that I am. And it's like, having someone help carry something is huge, because now I don't have to make 2 trips.
Yeah.
And you know, there's just all these things that are non-hard physical things. I think everything on the farm can be hard. Dragging a hose across the yard can end up being really difficult.
It's a PIA.
Yeah.
It really is, because it kinks or it gets hooked on things on the ground.
But it's such a help. It's such a help. And it's not only that, but then in fact, when Keeping It Dutch was up here, he was laughing because we have chairs set up everywhere we work.
Get out of the fire.
And
it's eating out of the fire.
Well, it's because charcoal's yummy. It really is good for their system.
But not while it's hot.
I mean, that's the survival of the fittest, apparently. Girl. So he was laughing because he's like, you guys literally have chairs set up everywhere. Uh-huh. And it's because we work, and then we sit and we rest, and we work really hard, and we rest we take 5-minute, 10-minute breaks here and there, and we stop and sit and we chit chat, and we, you know, solve all the world's problems. We shade chase. We need a shirt. We're official shade chasers. But yeah, social media definitely can be. Well, you had somebody in your space. I don't know if you want to say who it was, but that was talking about how isolated and depressed they were. And I see a lot of people like, I went off social media because it's all negative, and I don't want to la 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 la.
Yeah, I have a close family member that had posted something, and it was pretty much a cry for help, that she was sad and lonely, and, you know, why doesn't anyone want me, and that kind of stuff. And you know, and I just had to remind her that that she's a special person, and that she just needs to find her own happiness, whether that be like volunteering, or whether that being getting friendship and a community.
Well, they flat out say idle people, idle thoughts, you're absolutely going to have anxiety and depression.
So I had moved to Florida. So right before I came here, I was in Florida for a couple of years. My daughter had graduated from high school and wanted to go there for college, yada, yada, yada. So while we were there, it was just her and I. We didn't really know a whole lot of people. And I got very, very depressed.
And you went to work. So you did have your work,
I did
work family.
But I still was, it's just, I self-isolated. Like, I wouldn't go out and do things. I wouldn't be part of the things that they were doing. It was a different kind of thing. They're all Puerto Rican.
But not even that. Financially, that's really expensive to do. To go out and hang out and go out to eat. We've talked about that. Why does all the social events have to be around drinking or eating? Which I don't drink. If you guys know, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and we're always trying to do keto. So as far as going out to eat is really hard. Where volunteering somewhere that doesn't usually have anything to do with drinking or eating.
Nope.
Church, there's always a lot of eating church functions, but we can bring our own food, and they're like, oh yay, I'm happy for you that you did that. Like, there's no pressure.
Yeah. But you can let yourself get into that dark place, and that's what I had done. I'm coming here. It took me a little while to like embrace this whole community.
It's funny because remember you said you're gonna make me go do things, aren't you? I was like, yep. Because I have moderate depressive disorder and PTSD and that kind of thing, and I get SAD syndrome really bad. So the winter time when we are kind of forced isolated because of the roads.
You're not in the sun. You're not getting your vitamin D that you're soaking up, you know.
It gets hard to get out of bed. So I know that some people will say, well, yeah, you're just naturally a happy person all the time. And it's like, no, it really is a choice. So the things that I've done to pull myself out of that is I have a grateful list, and I look at it. If as soon as I start I start getting negative or depressed, you know, like that negativity, that's the second thing. I stay away from negative people. I don't want to be around them.
Yep.
It is so addicting. It's a very addicting behavior to be super duper negative, and it just pulls everybody down. So I either try to help them begin being positive or whatever, or I just very limit my space around them. And then...
and also you got to be careful to not to do the negative talk to yourself.
Yes.
Because we often do that, like, oh, I'm fat, or oh, I'm this, or oh, I'm that, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm not this or that. And you need to turn that around every time you have one of those. If you have to write it on a mirror in your bathroom, I am smart, I am beautiful, I'm whatever.
Right. Well, and then also, like, I'm so heavy, I'm so heavy, I'm so heavy. Do something about it. I'm like, you can't sit there and complain about being heavy and then constantly eating cookies. Which, look, you guys, I like my ice cream. I eat my ice cream, but I also don't. I do say, man, this didn't make me feel good, or that kind of stuff. Like, I am telling myself, you ate that and it didn't make you feel good. Like, remember. And then what we do in the store the other day, I was walking by going, gives me heartburn, gives me acid reflux, and be all puffy and swollen.
I like how you taste, but you're not my favorite.
You're not my friend. Everything over in the bakery, not my friend. Like, and then you start teaching yourself, is the sun burning your head?
Brutal. Oh, and it's like on the camera
now.
Hopefully they can see. Hold on, I'm gonna look.
What are you doing, Penelope? I'm gonna use these powers for good. So, social media, and we re-mentioned this because we brought it up last week. Join every single group of whatever it is that you're doing. If you're crocheting, join all the crocheting groups. If you're cooking, join all the cooking groups. If you're homesteading, join all the homesteading groups. And then there'll be subgroups that you can join, and then your feed will be full
with that stuff.
of that. And block, delete, mute, whatever those super negative people that you have in your life.
Go volunteer.
Volunteer.
Join a church.
Yeah, like there's one thing that's up here that, and it may be everywhere, and I just didn't know it, but they have the thrift stores that you can go volunteer. Darcy does a lot of volunteering with stuff like that. Like, you can volunteer in these different groups and do these things in these different groups. and then you've met people and you're doing things with people and all that kind of
You
stuff.
can join a club if you, like she was saying, if you like to sew, you join a sewing club that's local. That way you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people and you're building that community, and you can, then go and help them, and they can come and help you with whatever, with life, if you just need to talk, if you need help at home, whatever
I
it
can't
is.
wait till we're to the point that we can start hosting get-togethers here. Little tea parties, little, dinner and a movie kind of stuff, and having those people over and developing those relationships. But you have to actively want it. You have to actively say, I'm going to allow this person in my life. I'm going to give this person grace with all of their flaws, because I don't care who you are. We all have flaws. We have not been taught, my generation on has not been taught how to communicate well. I think that's number one, the biggest thing that's going on in society right now. Practice being a giver, not a taker. Because I think our parents, in some ways, our parents said, I'm not doing that anymore, and so I'm gonna not raise my kids that way. So like my mom grew up, there was a farm, there was gardening, there was canning, there was sewing your own clothes, there was doing all of that, and she was like, I'm absolutely not gonna do that. So then it was 2 children, and my mom was very liberal in a lot of her stuff, very conservative in a lot of her stuff. So she was, I don't know,
All over the place.
all over the place. But, as far as public school system, do all of the, join things, do things like that. Summer school, I did summer school every year. It was pretty cool. In my senior year, I didn't have to have many classes, but no sewing of your stuff. No, I was 11 years old before I knew my mom could sew. And my mom could sew a 3-piece suit. My mom could do alterations like a professional. And I didn't even know that. And then as far as cooking and canning, I mean, I was just enamored with my grandma's canned peaches.
And then did she pass any of that on?
None. Did not want to do any of it. Did not. She was like, I had to sew my own bras and underwear. We're not doing that. We are purchasing from the store. So those skills were lost. And then, I'm actively working on trying to get those back. But it's just,
it's a lost art. It's really being lost on our future generation.
well, and even just the foraging, that is all before, big pharmaceuticals came in. That's what people did. They had St. John's wort. They harvested St. John's wort.
I worked in the medical field for 30 years, and I am astonished by the stuff that I'm learning about medicinal plants and what uses they have, and what big pharma has been doing. So
Right.
shocking.
And I think that I read this thing that said if it didn't work, they wouldn't have made a campaign to make it stop. They wouldn't have worked so hard to make us believe that St. John's wort, for example, because I'm looking at it, is a weed, and you should spray it with
like dandelions
and dandelions. It's a weed.
If you look at a
Get rid of
weed
it, it's
killer,
weed.
a dandelion's on the front of the package.
She did it. She dove under the little deck, came out this side. And this is another thing. So harvesting, our garden isn't producing fruits of our labor yet, but all of these weeds are. And so we are harvesting. We're just not harvesting out of the garden yet.
And there's a bunch of food out there in the forest that you can eat as well.
So, there are foraging groups that you can join, and you can go out and hike. And so now you're out in the elements. You're getting fresh air. You're meeting like-minded people. And you cannot help but be in a good mood when you're physically moving and you're physically doing. So, I think
build your community, people.
it's so important to do. And there's got to be something that you're interested in doing. And, gosh, we've just picked up the phone and called people that we know from YouTube.
We went to pick up huckleberries the other day, and we were like, you know what? We're going to be close to so-and-so's house. And we're like, hey, you guys want to join us?
Yeah. And then we all went up and went
We
huckleberry
totally could
picking.
have done it just ourselves, but why?
And it's really funny because both of us are like, our first thought, so first thought wrong. Your first thought is wrong. We're just going to do it.
Yeah.
And we were literally 5 minutes from their place before I was like, I'm just going to call them. First thought wrong. Let me call them, see if they want to go. And they were like, yes, we've been wanting to go.
And it was so much fun.
So much fun. So much fun. So,
And you're just growing that bond.
you
that
could
friendship.
you could do things like, I'm having a raking party because I need to rake my yard. Everybody come over, bring your rake. I'm gonna provide lemonade and tea and
Yep.
cucumber sandwiches. And you could invite 5 ladies over and rake the yard. It could be done in 30 minutes. You can have a little snacky snack.
Well, you have a really good example. Again, building community. You and a friend would trade off cleaning each other's houses.
Yeah, so we were dog trainers. So we had a ridiculous amount of dogs in our houses. And one weekend, I would go to her house. We'd scrub from one end to the other. I mean, we washed walls. We did all those things. The next weekend, she would come to my house. We'd do the same thing. The next weekend, we'd go to her house and we'd bathe all of her animals. The next day, she'd come to my... And we did this for, I don't know, a year and a half.
So you're doing it together, and you're doing something,
fun.
A chore that, who really wants to do it themselves?
Yes.
Well, I kind of like cleaning, but cleaning my house. But it's also really fun to have.
Well, we would crank the
somebody to
music
talk with.
up. We would play. We would laugh. We would sing. We would, goof off. So it made a tedious chore a fun chore and a more of a social event. And it was just real good. But she came from a big size family, and she was like, my sisters can't come help me. Do you want to do this? It was her idea to do that. Look at you, Penelope. You're such a big girl. She's like, don't look at me. I don't know if I like you
Now
guys
if we could
yet.
just get you to get out of the pool on that way.
Exactly. She's like, So, I mean, it is so important, and I know a lot of people deal with health issues. I know a lot of people deal with that kind of stuff, but, if you go to the YMCA and do a swimming exercise program, and you meet those ladies or gentlemen that are in that program, and you guys start doing things together, that's a start.
Yep.
I know it was really hard for me. I've always lived out in the country, and I've always isolated. This is the first time that I would say I've really expanded my friendship circle, and it does take work.
It does take work, but it's so important.
It's so, and even those days that I'm like, I just don't want to. I don't want to socialize. I don't want to, but I do it anyway. I'm always glad that I did. I don't think, I can't think of one time that I've been like, man, I really wish I would have stayed home and not done those things. And so for instance, we have this little duck, Penelope, and the goats. So the lady that I purchased Penelope from is who I purchased Bud and Sissy's mama from 2 years ago. And they 4-H, and she has all this information, and we talked about all kinds of things, and we discussed all kinds of things, but it's you get there, and I haven't seen her in 2 years, and I'm just like, oh, how's it going? What's going on? I mean, we all know I have a gift of gab, but we stayed there for about an hour, and we talked, but you have to do those things in this community. You have to. Because if you don't, one, you miss out on a ton of information. Because, for instance, she has Muscovy ducks. This is the funny thing about it. We had just started looking up Muscovy ducks.
Yep.
It had come across a feed, and then we started researching it, and then there was something that I think you saw that was a short on it.
I saw something that said that they taste like beef, and I was like, what? We gotta get this.
And then literally the same exact day, this lady posted that she has these baby ducks for sale, and I was like, these are Muscovy ducks, and we're like, we were not getting more ducks. Yep. Because we had the one duck, And then my neighbor down the road had asked me if I wanted her male ducks. I said, no, I don't want any more male ducks. I've got one. I want girls. And so she was like, hey, I found somebody. I'm going to get some girl ducks. She has an extra one. Do you want it? Well, so now, long story short, we have 4. But we went and picked up this Muscovy duck. And what I'm finding now in my life, and I really feel like this season we've seen a lot of this. What is supposed to be in our lives, we will be inundated with that information.
Right.
And it will be dropped into our feed. It will be, someone that I know will be selling it. We'll start seeing shorts about it. We'll start discussing it. We'll start, and it just gets dropped at our feet. So I believe divine intervention. And my goal with the ducks is to have ducks that will raise their own babies. So I'm the most hands-off that I can be. Same with the rabbits, the most hands-off that I can be because of how overwhelming this lifestyle is.
Right.
And, but I'm also, again, because I knew somebody, because I reached out, because I sat and chatted, this all kind of came. Now I know who to get Muscovy ducks from.
Oh.
Because now we're breeding this Muscovy duck to a Peking duck boy, so it'll change the flavor a little bit. They should grow faster, which is good. So we're going to try the cross.
And Pekings are very meaty, so are Muscovies. So
right.
It's a big, big duck.
So we'll see how it all turns out. But now we have this cute little place where we can be like, hey, come over and see the ducks. Come hang out, bring your chair. It's in the shade all morning.
Exactly. You can have your community come over. But also, then the animals are a good mood booster too, because it is so fun sitting here watching them swim. Yeah. Sorry, my eyes are not looking,
both of us.
I'm
doing it too.
I'm not looking at her. I keep looking at the ducks. So I apologize for that. But it's such a mood booster watching them. And same with the rabbits. They're meat rabbits. Yes, absolutely. But they're in a colony and they have burrows. And it's so fun to just sit and watch.
Yeah. And
if you haven't,
is huge mood booster.
And if you haven't watched it yet, she's going to be posting some of these animals just time-lapsed with them doing their things.
We've had so many people request that that is what we are doing, even though to us, because we do it. And it's funny because we're like, well, we do this. We sit here for an hour and watch them. Guys. So you guys too can sit and watch bunny rabbits doing their thing.
So look for those videos.
And the baby goats.
We got the baby goats, we got the ducks, and we got the rabbits.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing.
And then here and there you'll see Richard, which is the crazy rooster.
The crazy rooster.
We won't time lapse him. We'll just show you some of the antics that he has.
So yeah, reach out to people, allow people in your lives, develop that community. Not everybody has to have access to you. If like I said, I've really cut out negative personalities, and now it's one thing if somebody is stuck in that negative, but they're trying, and you can be part of their trying, and you can just encourage positivity. But what I have found when I switched that behavior, the people that didn't want to switch their behavior disappeared. It was very easy. It's very easy to the people that are supposed to be in your life are gonna be in your life. And I hope that you guys really enjoy these chats. We enjoy sharing with you. You gonna go drink your coffee? What you doing?
We do enjoy doing them.
She's chasing flies.
We enjoy doing them. We enjoy all of your comments.
Yes. Even though I'm terrible and I will get better at responding to the comments. But this is one of our most fun things that we like doing, is sitting and sharing with you guys, and it's part of developing that community. And again, we usually just talk about what is dropped in our feed all week long, and this is something that's been dropped in our feed all week long.
Yeah.
The past couple of weeks, because this really does correlate with last week's conversation, which was homesteading being hard and people quitting. And that is heartbreaking. I don't know of anybody that stops homesteading that is glad that they stop homesteading.
No.
They're heartbroken. And the majority of them do it because of the isolation, which is I think what's really killing our society.
And not having that community to help with the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to put a fence up all by yourself. I mean,
Yeah, it's not that
hard.
you can't do it. It is very, very hard, and that's the only thing you're going to get done today.
And maybe not even the whole fence.
And maybe not even the whole fence. This took us 2 days. Now, we kind of had a crazy day yesterday. We could have gotten it done yesterday, but it was 103.
And we were doing other things.
And we were doing other things. But it's finished today. We've gotten to sit with the ducks to make sure everybody's baby can get in and out. And, you know, so now we just got to bring their food up here, figure out where we're going to put that. But at this point, the ducks are good. The biggest was to make sure the baby could get out of the pool.
Yeah.
And in the pool, which she's now doing.
Her first time in the pool by herself.
And she took a little stroll.
Yeah.
So, you know, you guys, make sure you comment below, share these videos. Let's increase this talk. Let's increase this chat. We will be doing lives eventually on this channel too. And these are the things that we're going to talk about.
Share it with other homesteaders because they're struggling. I know people struggle with this. So share it. Get the word out.
Yep. Get your friends, because this isn't, to me, this isn't just a homesteading conversation. This is a conversation with everybody.
Right.
And I know there's people that cannot homestead but want to, and they want to be part of a community of homesteaders. And so, you know, we're going to welcome you to our community. And,
absolutely.
You know, we'll develop those friendships. And I mean, if you're local, who knows? Maybe we'll let you come over and hang out and help break the yard and have some tea.
We never turn down a good cup of coffee. We never turn down a meal. You know, if you want to meet up, we're happy to meet up with you.
Yep. So thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We're going to leave you with some little duck antics. Because it's really not fair for us to sit here grinning at them without sharing them with you guys. So,
God bless.
Bye.
I know that you are having a hard time right now. That everything seems to crumble around you. I know that you feel all alone in this world, but you have to put your trust into us, and we will help you through, 'cause we only want what's best for you. I know that you are having trouble believing right now that everything is gonna be alright. I know that you feel all alone in this world, but you have to put your trust into us, and we will help you through, 'cause we only want what is best for you. I know that you feel all alone in this world, but you have to put your trust into us, and we will help you through, 'cause we only want what's best for